Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this episode of Talk About It with Marvin Lee. This week, we're going to be talking about, I just felt like talking about the Epstein files. We're going to talk about power, wealth, and accountability. I'm going to jump right in because it's rather late, and I'm trying to regularly broadcast because I need to be consistent and committed to my passion. But we're gonna jump in, and the reason that I'm going here is I'm gonna start out by talking about. Um, there was an article that I was reading earlier on the Hill. Was a video actually that I saw on YouTube earlier today that there's a probe that's moving forward. 14 subpoenas have been issued in the state of New Mexico uh, around surrounding Jeffrey Epstein's New Mexico ranch. And I'm gonna address why we even got to this place. So basically, let's accept this. I'm gonna share my screen because I want you guys to be able to see this with me. Let's accept that, close that. Let me share my screen here. Just one moment. Share screen. Okay. I want to make sure I get the right one for you guys. I think this is it. So we're going to jump right in and get started. Wherever we go, we go. Whatever we discuss, we discuss. And this is an article from The Hill that was dated June 2nd. So that's about 4 or 5 days ago. New Mexico lawmakers issue first subpoenas in Epstein investigation. So basically, a bipartisan special committee of New Mexico lawmakers created to probe the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein's Zorro Ranch near Santa Fe announced Monday that it will send out its first round of subpoenas. Now, mind you, pay attention to where they're sending these subpoenas. This Truth Commission is slated to send subpoenas to 14 entities. 14 entities, including agencies that have investigated Epstein in the past, such as the FBI and the New Mexico Department of Justice. Now, mind you, there are 14 entities that are being subpoenaed here, and that's worth asking the question, or not even asking the question, but considering why there are 14 entities that are being subpoenaed. And that speaks to the breadth and the scale of just how large this operation, this illegal operation, was. And then we're going to talk about why New Mexico is taking the measures that they're taking and why the Truth Commission was created in the first place. So again, it says subpoenas will also be issued to several entities besides and beyond the 14 that have been affiliated with Epstein, including Deutsche Bank and JP Morgan Chase, as well as the Santa Fe Institute, a nonprofit scientific research institute that Epstein supported. JP Morgan Chase and Deutsche Bank declined comment. Santa Fe Institute did not immediately respond to the Hill's request for comment. Any evidence showing someone committed a crime will be sent to the appropriate law enforcement agency, either in New Mexico or elsewhere, according to the commission. Commission members said that they're aiming to build a complete documented record, examining allegations of sex trafficking and other misconduct connected to Epstein's operations in New Mexico, as well as any institutional failures that allowed him to continue any misconduct in the state for years. They go on to say that we'll name what happened, we will name who was responsible, and we will do so with the evidentiary regard that survivors deserve and that the law requires. State Rep. Andrea Reed, who is a Republican, said at a meeting at the New Mexico State Capitol. She is one of 4 lawmakers on the commission. Let's see. Earlier this year, authorities in New Mexico reopened their probe into alleged illegal activity that took place at the ranch previously owned by Epstein, located 30 miles from Santa Fe. Law enforcement also investigated allegations that 2 bodies were buried in the hills near the ranch. New Mexico Attorney General Raul Torres, Democrat, has encouraged victims of Epstein to come forward as part of his office's investigation into the ranch. And one of the reasons why we see New Mexico creating this Truth Commission to kind of give us answers that that are long overdue is because the Department of Justice. This is a state level commission that was created, state level, and the reason that they took the measures that they took is because the Department of Justice interfered The Department of Justice effectively halted. Let me get to this here. I'm gonna share my screen again because I basically, I love Google, Chat GPT, Claude, all those various forms that we can tap into. So the question that I asked on Google was, did the Department of Justice interfere with the investigation in New Mexico regarding the Epstein properties? And the answer, well, my question, did the DOJ interfere with the Epstein probe in New Mexico? Okay. Yes, the Department of Justice effectively halted a 2019 state investigation into Jeffrey Epstein's New Mexico property, Zorro Ranch. Federal prosecutors under the Trump administration's Department of Justice requested that the New Mexico Attorney General's office pause its initial probe, citing concerns that interviewing the same victims could compromise their federal case in New York. State officials handed over their evidence and the state inquiry was effectively shuttered. This intervention sparked significant political and legal fallout, which led to the following developments. The probe was reopened. New Mexico Attorney General Raul Torres reopened the state's criminal investigation into Epstein's Zorro Ranch, citing new revelations from previously unsealed FBI files. It led to physical searches. The New Mexico Department of Justice, alongside state investigators, conducted a physical search of the Zorro Ranch property. And it also led to legislative action. The New Mexico legislature established a bipartisan, meaning that it was lawmakers from the Democratic Party and the Republican Party that came together to create the Truth Commission with subpoena power. The commission has issued subpoenas to the DOJ, the FBI, the FAA, Federal Aviation Administration, and Epstein's estate. Now, it is worth asking, why is it necessary to establish a commission that has subpoena power? Like, it's not that we're not asking questions, and it's not that we're afraid to ask questions, and it's not that we're not asking the right questions. It's just that people don't believe what their eyes have been showing them this entire time. When a person shows you who they are, believe them the first time. There's no reason for me to believe that something is not what it is. When I've seen it clearly with my eyes, I know what it is. And with regards to the Trump administration, we all know, I'm not even going to say allegedly because it's not alleged. It's been proven that his name appears in the Epstein files over 38,000 times. And the fact that this is a sitting president of the United States of America, not just the fact that it is a sitting president of the United States of America, because even in the process of a candidate declaring for the presidency, whether it was his first term or this term, there has to be a vetting process. So we can look to, if there is such a concerted effort to continue to suppress these files now, there's a piece of me that wonders, did he really run for president because of this unwielding power that he has? And this is something that he's going to try to suppress and prevent from coming out. Because again, at the end of the day, as a Bible-believing Christian, there's a scripture that does say that there's nothing hidden that will not be revealed. And part of what I'm doing with Talk About It with Marvin Lee is talk about it. Whatever we decide to talk about is what the it is, right? But this it, I wanted to talk about, I'm not afraid to touch on politics, and I'm not afraid to talk about the things that are uncomfortable to most people. And I'm really fed up with the whole, I'm just fed up with this administration and the leadership in terms of the hiding of these Epstein files and trying to, gaslight us into thinking that they aren't what they are. Let me be clear when I say this. I do not care if you are Republican. I do not care if you are Democrat. If you are wielding any type of power, if you are wealthy, if you have been a player in this Epstein mess, I don't care about the label attached to your name. I don't care if you are black. I don't care if you are white. If all of the things that have been alleged to have occurred actually did occur and you played a part, you do the crime, you do the time. Period. Point blank. This is not about right or wrong. I mean, this is not about left or right. This for me is about right or wrong. When it comes to the innocence of children and all of the things that we have heard surrounding the sex trafficking that allegedly took place, these are children. And we know about the Epstein victims who are still living. We know about the ones who are no longer with us because psychologically speaking, they you never know what goes through the minds of a victim of such heinous acts. But where there is smoke, there is fire. And you can only talk about a thing for so long before the thing that you're talking about either develops wings and begins to fly, or it grows legs and it walks. But it seems like this Epstein file debacle is being maimed for whatever reason. We already know that Trump's DOJ interfered with the investigation that New Mexico had launched back in 2019, I think it was. Why was that? We know that there are 14 subpoenas that have been sent out by this Santa Fe or the New Mexico Truth Commission. We know this, and beyond the 14, we know that the banks, the expanse of the operations that it would that would be required to pull off this criminal activity. I mean, it's if we could even begin to wrap our heads around that, and then connect the dots and tie it back to the president, who we know was this man's friend for so long. Anyone that is standing in the way of the truth coming out is complicit in these activities. I don't understand how anybody, I don't care who you are, I don't care about your race, I don't care about your gender, I don't care about any of that. If you are someone who has children, if you are a decent human being, period, you don't even have to be a parent. You don't have to be an uncle or an auntie. You don't have to be any of that. You just need to be a decent human being. I don't understand how anybody can hear of the allegations that are coming out of these Epstein files and think to themselves or try to take sides like, oh, he didn't do it, or this. No, if there are allegations that there were atrocities and criminal acts committed against children who are supposed to be protected not only by their parents but by adults, if there are not level-headed voices that can come together to say we owe it to these children, we owe it to these victims to investigate this, the truth needs to come out. I don't know what kind of a person it takes, actually I do, to sit on that kind of information or to pretend like this didn't happen. We're talking about children. We're talking about the innocence of children. I can say, and I'm not making this about me, but I want to liken this to something that happened in my life. I myself was molested as a child. That amongst a lot of other things led to my later in life being a full-fledged drug addict. Life happens. Things happen the way that they happen. I don't have the answers to everything in life, but I do know that from a psychological perspective, my truth led me down a path of illicit drug usage. Because when I was able to use drugs, I didn't use drugs because I was an addict. I was using drugs because I was trying to escape my reality, because I couldn't talk about what had happened. In a family where my sexual orientation has damned me to hell. So I'm living with that. I'm living with this being molested by a relative. I'm living with the being in the broken, dysfunctional home. I'm being just so many different things that I'm dealing with. and there were multiple deaths or what have you, and you're being looked at like, well, you're not processing this the way that I'm processing this. If your family, let me tell you something, parents don't raise their children the same way. They can't, because each child has a unique and a distinct personality, and you can't raise all children the same. Now, maybe it worked way back when for somebody, but typically speaking, it doesn't work. And I said all that to say this, that I found myself in a world of darkness, and all I was trying to do was to cope with what I had going on, that I couldn't talk to anybody. So I can only imagine how these victims must have felt because of the things that they suffered or the things that happened. Because again, there's no way. There have been grand juries or grand juries that there have been indictments issued surrounding these Epstein files. And if you know anything about the legal system, there's certain things that just don't happen unless there's truth behind what is being alleged. And these victims appeared in a court of law before a judge and a jury, and they swore under oath and testified under oath about things that happened to them. I don't see anyone in their right mind putting themselves in a position to perjure themselves if what they are alleging, if what they were alleging took place, didn't actually take place. Now that leads us to the point of asking other questions. How do powerful people gain access to servers, or to exclusive servers? Number one, that's one thing, and we know how that is. It's the love of money that is the root of all evil. The love of money is the root of all evil. That's one thing. And so again, looking at this New Mexico Commission, we see the number of subpoenas that have been issued for that type of criminal enterprise to exist, and for all of the activities to occur that has been alleged and documented in emails and court documents or what have you, the things that have taken place. The banks that had to be involved, leaders and lenders of those banks that had to be involved, world leaders that were involved, even other nations who, at the very mention of their leaders, their political leaders, even being remotely tied to these allegations, it was good enough for them to take drastic measures. But here in the United States of America, we've taken the more foolish approach. Hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil, yet all the while knowing that what's being alleged is nothing more than pure evil. So again, I feel like we're living in the upside down. Water ain't wet, birds don't fly, the sun don't shine. The abnormal seems to be the new normal, and the wealthy, in order to shift the focus or shift the attention from where it needs to be so that there is accountability, we're fighting a war in Iran that we didn't ask for. The price of groceries is crazy. Gas is starting to come down just a little bit, but it's still too high. Energy costs are skyrocketing, rent, mortgage. They're giving us just enough to keep us talking and fighting amongst ourselves while letting them off the hook. And at some point, somebody has to be an adult in the room to say, hey, no, something's not right here. If it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, I can promise you it is not a goose. So when do we start asking the questions, what should accountability look like, regardless of wealth and regardless of status? We're not asking the right questions. If this were you, Let me start there. If this were you that had done something so heinous and something so crazy, they have shows that are created to catch how to catch a predator. You know, you're 37 years old and you've met a 14-year-old online and you want to show up to meet them, and you got somebody that pops out of a bush and shows up to you know, hey, I got you. And we watch that stuff and we talk mad smack about the perpetrator. Like, dude, seriously? But then we have a leader of the free world whose name has been associated with a monster. If you have been sleeping under a rock, you don't know who Jeffrey Epstein is. Even if you've been sleeping under a rock, with the amount of press that has been given, you should know who he is. And it's mind-boggling to me that there's not enough accountability even within media, which is why you see right-leaning or even left-leaning individuals try to purchase entire news organizations. As if we didn't have one propagandist station, being Fox News. Now we have, I forgot who it was that has purported to buy CNN, and they want to make them more right-leaning. And we see what has happened with CBS. They were purchased, and they're going to become, in an authoritarian government, one of the first things that you do is you have to attack the press. And in case you aren't watching and aren't paying attention, first off, Donald Trump doesn't like anything or anybody that doesn't like him. Jimmy Kimmel, the comedians, he can't take jokes. He has to try to come after the comedians. Anything or anybody that doesn't like him, he comes after. They talk about weaponizing the systems of government and government institutions. This is not what we're doing. When he weaponized the Department of Justice against E. Jean Carroll, who has successfully been awarded, I think, in excess of like $74 million because of the I'm not going to say the sexual assault that he was found guilty of. I mean, we got a criminal in the White House, and a lot of us seem to be okay with that. But I can only imagine how other people in the world see not only just the country, our nation, us as individuals, us as citizens. It's sad because there were about 71 million of us that we didn't vote for this mess because we knew better. We know that where there's smoke, there's fire. And I don't care who doesn't like me. I don't care who disagrees with me. This is a beautiful thing about this democracy, is you can believe what you believe and I can believe what I believe, and we can still exist peacefully together. But see, where I draw the line is we're not built the same. When you can stand by and sit back and watch and say that it's okay that the leader of the United States of America, who is tied to all these different actors that have been found to have been a part of one of the most atrocious activities known to man. It is my mind is just blown. Like, I really, for the life of me, I'm sitting back like, this is not happening. Like, God, you got to come back here soon. You got to fix this. And one of the reasons why people are like, how can God allow this to happen? First off, stop blaming God for things that evil men do. Evil men do this. The love of money is the root of all evil. All money does is magnify the matters of the heart. So it speaks to the depravity and the state of being of these wealthy individuals. It takes a twisted, dark, sadistic, and depraved mindset to do things to children that have been alleged, like the murders. It's been alleged that there were bodies found at Epstein's New Mexico property. talk about the things that occurred on the islands, right? That you can't even get close to. It's like just so many different things that it just doesn't make sense to me. The media coverage is disappointing. Uh, Public perception is disappointing. Um, and I don't know. I don't understand why there's so much skepticism. With I don't understand how people are even defending this man. I don't care. He was associated with Jeffrey Epstein long before he was associated with the office of president. And I don't care if he's in the office now. The fact that you are affiliated with, connected to, and tied to a predator, a child predator, and the things that Donald Trump has said about his own daughter, it is disgusting the way that he has spoken about his daughter. And this is not an allegation. Donald Trump has said some horrific things about his own. And yes, I'm saying horrific because no sensible father would say the things about their child, their female child, that if this weren't my child, maybe we'd be dating. That's just nasty. And if you're okay with that, that tells me what kind of person you are. Like, seriously. But again, if an ordinary person had the same accusations, would they be receiving the same level of treatment as we see these powerful people receiving, or would they be treated differently? Ask yourselves that question. And if it's not good for the gander, it shouldn't be good for the goose. And why is it? It's not so much that power protects itself, but the powerful or the elite form these circles and they protect each other. And that's what we are seeing is we're starting to see an attack. Not so much this is how the powerful perceive what's occurring as an attack on that power structure. But what it is that the power structure is crumbling because, again, there's nothing hidden that will not be revealed. God himself is fighting this battle, and the truth will prevail. And those that are the actors and the perpetrators and the predators, they know that the jig is up. The jig is close to being up, and they're fighting tooth and nail. It's like they're drowning, and they're trying so hard to hold on to the last little bit of power before the fall. See, pride goes before a fall, and a haughty spirit before destruction. I didn't say it, God said it. So when you're contending with the truth, you're actually contending with God. And I've never known God to lose any battle. But there's so many. I don't even understand why society struggled to hold the elite accountable. I just don't get it. Like, I don't care how much money you have. Some things can't be bought. The innocence of a child cannot be bought. Like, the two don't go hand in hand. It just doesn't work. And maybe it just doesn't work for me. Like, I don't understand why we are now, like, Epstein allegedly died or committed suicide in 2019. So we're going on August 10th, 7 years now. And this is something that happened long before then. Like, why is all this stuff just now starting to come out? And why is it taking so long for there to be any type of movement, especially when one of the perpetrators promised and campaigned on the fact that the files would be released, and then all of a sudden now the files are about to be released and we see some traction, but what we have, there's so much more. We know less than what is actually to be known. In the files that have been released, there's so many more files that have not been released. So in the little bit that we do know, and it's not good, just how much worse is it really? And why are we seemingly okay with feet being dragged and the many delays and all the different lies and the justifications? And if you're okay with that, like there is something wrong with, there is a special place in hell for anybody who is silent during these times. Now is not a time for any of us to sit down and be quiet. Now is not a time for us to not show up at the polls. And we need to show up with the right intentions and with the right energy. We need to look at those of us who are decent human beings, need to look at our children. If you are a parent, you need to look at your child or your children. If you are an uncle or an auntie, you need to look at your nieces and nephews. Grandparents, you need to look at your grandchildren, and you need to ask yourself, what can I do? And one of the first things that you can do is you can register, you can vote responsibly and accountably to get people that you know will fight on behalf of these children, to give them the voice that they never had, because it is not okay. I know how it feels to want to speak when you're told to shut up. I know personally how that feels. And it's not okay. Register to vote, show up, elect people that want to hold the powerful accountable. And let me not even get started on Elon Musk and his drug addiction that he's even talked about. Like, you got somebody like me or somebody like you, an ordinary person's drug addicted, oh, you're a crackhead or you're a meth head or you're this or you're that. But oh, be an immigrant from South Africa just because you have money and you create jobs. Oh, you be whatever you want to be. We need your money. No, it's not okay. It is not okay. I've ranted for 31 minutes about something wish that we weren't even having to discuss. Yeah, here we are. Maybe one day soon, we will start getting some real answers. And there will be some real traction. And we will start seeing people being held accountable for the heinous acts that they committed. Because again, where there is smoke, there is fire. And I believe the victims. Thank you for joining me on this episode with Talk About It with Marvin Lee. I'll see you guys here next week. No telling what we're going to be talking about. But again, I'll see you next week. And if you learned something from this discussion, or if it brought something to you, please share, subscribe, engage with me. I need you to make this podcast. I need your help in pushing this podcast up in the algorithm as far as YouTube is concerned, because I want to give voice to the voiceless. I'm not doing this for attention. I'm doing this because it is my passion, but I am starting small, but I won't stay small again. Thank you for joining me on this episode. See you guys next week.